Hey everyone, think about a time when you were at a real crossroads. Like a moment where your life could have gone in a totally different direction.
Yeah, like maybe a job interview that could landed you that dream role. Or even something as simple as a conversation that could have gone one of a bunch of different ways. We've all got those what if moments.
Oh, absolutely. And today, we're going to dive deep into how we talk about those kinds of
Those
moments.
imaginary paths, right?
Exactly. Specifically by looking at these English modal verbs. Would have, could have, and should have.
Perfect. And what we're looking at today comes from this really cool English language lesson.
It really breaks down the differences between those three forms.
For sure.
The goal is to give you a deeper understanding of not only what those verbs mean,
All right?
but also all the subtle shades of meaning that they can convey,
Absolutely.
and how you can actually use them to be a more precise speaker in your everyday conversations.
I love that. It's about moving from a general understanding to like a much more focused and sharper way of speaking.
Okay, so let's start with would have.
Yeah.
Now, this lesson we've been going over, it explains that would have, plus the past participle, is how we describe those hypothetical situations in the past.
Like those things that didn't happen, but we can still imagine.
Yes. Like we
Like-
can easily picture them in our minds.
Totally. It's like building these alternate timelines in our heads.
Right.
And, the lesson was a classic example. If I had gotten better exam results, I would have gotten into Harvard.
Oh, yeah, that's a good one.
So it really shows how, a different path could have happened based on a different outcome.
And here's another one that I think we can all relate to. I wouldn't have met my wife if I had moved to Italy 7 years ago.
Oh, wow.
Right.
It really highlights how these little decisions that we make
Yeah.
can have these huge unexpected consequences.
And set off these, crazy chains of events in our lives.
That's so true.
Here's one more from the lesson. I actually really like this one. It says, if I hadn't forgotten my pen that day, I wouldn't have asked to borrow yours, and we wouldn't have become friends. Isn't that cute?
It's so true.
It's like these small, almost accidental moments can lead to these significant relationships and connections in our lives.
It's amazing how that happens.
I know, right? So think about it, everyone. Think back to that crossroads we were talking about.
Yeah.
What would have happened if you'd made a different choice?
Mhm.
It's amazing how these few little words can open up these whole, alternative narratives in our minds.
Now, let's shift gears a bit and talk about could have.
Okay.
This one's got a few more layers to it.
Yeah, it can be a little bit trickier.
So it can be tough to grasp sometimes, but the source we're looking at does a great job of breaking it down.
Totally.
So first of all, similar to would have, it can refer to that imaginary past, and in particular, it emphasizes the possibility of something.
Right. It's like what could have been. The lesson actually gives a couple of good examples. Like, if I'd had more time, I could have finished everything.
Oh, yeah, that's a familiar feeling.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It speaks to that sense of a missed opportunity.
Totally, like there was something preventing you from doing it.
Yeah, exactly. In this case, it was time. Another example is he could have won it if he hadn't slipped at the start.
Oh, man, that's frustrating.
So in these cases, could have indicates that, something was possible in that imagined past. And what's interesting is that both could have and would have can refer to this possibility in the past.
It seems like there's some overlap there.
Yeah, there is. And I think what connects those two uses is this idea of uncertainty.
Oh, interesting. Like there's this space between what actually happened
Yeah,
and what could have been.
exactly.
Like we don't know for sure what would have happened.
Okay, now here's where things get really interesting. Could have isn't just about these hypothetical past possibilities.
Oh, really?
Yeah, we can also use it to make a guess about the past.
So when we're not totally certain what actually happened,
Right, like we're kind of speculating. And the examples the lesson gives are really helpful here. It says, they could have mixed up the date.
okay.
I've lost my keys. I could have left them at work.
Uh-huh.
Or, where are they? I guess they could have missed the train.
Oh, I see.
So in each of those cases, the speaker doesn't actually know for sure what happened.
Right.
They're just offering a possible explanation.
So it's a way of saying, hey, this is one possible scenario.
Exactly. It's like we're doing a bit of detective work.
Yeah, like historical detective work.
I like that. Using could to suggest these different potential explanations.
Trying to piece together the past.
And the lesson points out that this use of could have really highlights that element of uncertainty.
Like we're acknowledging that we don't have all the facts.
Exactly.
Okay, so we've seen could have for possibility in the imaginary past and for guessing about the past.
Uh-huh.
But guess what? There's even more.
Really?
We also use could have for criticism.
Oh, yeah, it's those polite little jabs, right?
Exactly, and they're everywhere.
They're so common.
The source gives some great examples, like, you could have told me sooner.
Uh-huh. You could have tidied up a bit.
Yeah, or you could have worn something a bit nicer.
Okay, so those are all, like, classic could-have criticisms. But what makes this use of could have so interesting is that it's not just a neutral observation about a past possibility.
It's more than that, right?
Right. It's like it carries with it this implied expectation.
Like, you should have done this instead.
Exactly. It's a subtle, and sometimes not so subtle, critique of what someone didn't do.
Like, hey, there's a chance for you to have done something better.
And last but not least, the lesson mentions how could have can express a sense of relief.
Oh, relief.
Yeah, like when a bad situation was narrowly avoided.
Like a close call.
Exactly. So picture this. You say, it's just a scratch, but you could have really hurt yourself.
Oh, wow. That's a scary thought.
I know, right?
Like something bad almost happened, but it didn't.
Exactly. Or you could say, we were really late and we could have missed our plane, but luckily we just made it.
Oh, yeah. Close one.
So in these cases, could have really emphasizes that potential negative outcome.
That thankfully didn't occur.
Yeah. It often involves a bit of chance or luck.
Definitely.
All right, so let's take a moment to think about this. Have you ever used could have in one of these ways without even realizing it? It's amazing how many different shades of meaning this one little verb phrase can have.
It's like a linguistic Swiss Army knife.
I like that. Okay, so now let's move on to should have. This one comes with a whole different set of implications, and it often centers around expectations and judgments about the past.
Interesting. So how does should have work in terms of expectations?
Well, the lesson explains that similar to could have, should have, can be used to express disapproval of something that didn't happen.
So it's like we feel that a certain action was expected.
Right. Or that it was the right thing to do, but it didn't happen.
Like it was the appropriate thing to do in that situation.
Exactly. And it's fascinating how should have often carries this weight of unspoken societal or personal expectations.
It's not just about what actually happened, but about what should have happened.
Exactly. The lesson gives some clear examples. It says, you should have called me like you promised.
Okay.
He should have checked the recipe before he started cooking. Or they should have practiced penalties before the match.
So in each of those, there's this sense that if the person had taken that particular action,
Yeah,
the outcome might have been better.
exactly. And, you know, it's not just about things people didn't do.
Okay.
Should have, or rather shouldn't have, also comes up when we're expressing disapproval of something that someone did do.
Right.
Often with a tone of regret or even self-reproach.
Like, I shouldn't have done that.
Exactly. Haven't we all had those I shouldn't have said that moments?
Oh, too many times.
Right. And the lesson gives some other great examples like, you shouldn't have drunk so much at the wedding.
Oof. Yeah, I've been there.
Or, she shouldn't have left everything to the last minute.
Oh, that's relatable.
I know, right? All of these convey this sense that, that past action was not the best choice.
Like it was a mistake in hindsight.
And that last one, I shouldn't have said that, connects to the idea of apologizing, don't you think?
Oh, totally. It's a way of acknowledging that you messed up.
Yeah, and that you regret what you said.
And that you wish you could take it back.
But should have isn't always about criticism or regret. The lesson highlights another really important use, and that is to talk about unfulfilled expectations.
Unfulfilled expectations. Okay, so what do you mean by that?
Well, it's about those things that we expected to happen but didn't.
I see.
So, for example, you might hear, they should have been here by now. It should have been ready an hour ago.
Right.
Or the plane should have landed at 7:30.
Okay.
So in these situations, there's this feeling of surprise.
Like things didn't go as planned.
Yeah, and sometimes even frustration because reality didn't match up with our expectations.
So it's that feeling of, wait a minute, something's not right.
Yeah, exactly. Like a curveball. Have you ever had that experience where you thought, they should have, or it should have, that feeling of, this isn't what I expected?
All the time.
Okay, so to really see how all this works in practice, how people actually use these forms in real life, the lesson gives us some great real-world dialogue examples.
I love that. It makes it so much more concrete.
It really does. Let's look at the first one. It says, you should have told me your friends were coming. I would have made some extra food.
Okay, so we've got should have and would have in that one.
Yeah.
So should have told me, that's clearly a criticism.
Right.
Like, The speaker's unhappy that they weren't informed.
Exactly.
And then the I would have made some extra food part.
Yeah.
That's describing what the speaker would have done if they had known.
Exactly. So that's our imaginary past in action.
Okay, cool. What's the next example?
All right, here's another one. I would have called you, but I had no phone credit. I should have topped up before we went out.
Oh, so that one's interesting because it combines a couple of different things.
It does.
So first we have, I would have called you.
Uh-huh.
That explains why something didn't happen in the past.
Right, in that imaginary past.
And then I should have topped up before we went out.
Yeah.
That's the self-criticism.
The speaker's basically saying, I messed up.
Exactly. I regret not topping up my phone.
Okay, this next one's a little bit more complex. It says, they should have come by now, right? They're probably just busy. They could have forgotten. They would have called if there was a problem, don't you think?
Oh, wow. They packed a lot in there.
It's like a whole story, right?
It is.
So first we have, they should have come by now.
Right.
That expresses the unfulfilled expectation.
Like, I expected them to be here by this point, and then they could have forgotten. That's a guess about a past possibility.
And finally, they would have called if there was a problem.
Right.
So that describes a hypothetical action.
Like, if there was a problem, this is what would have happened.
It's almost like a little puzzle, right?
It is.
The speaker's piecing together these different possibilities.
Trying to figure out what happened.
Yeah. Okay, and here's the final dialogue. You could have left some for me.
Uh-huh.
Followed by, I would have left some if I'd known you wanted some. I should have asked.
Nice.
Right.
So in that one, we have criticism with the, you could have left some for me.
Yep. And then, I would have left some if I'd known you wanted some.
Yeah.
That's an imaginary past action.
It's like the speaker saying, if the situation had been different,
Yeah.
then I would have done this.
And finally, I should have asked. Is that self-criticism?
So many layers of meaning.
I know, right?
Yeah.
It's incredible. And these dialogues really demonstrate how important context is for understanding these modal verbs.
Totally. The situation can completely change how we interpret them.
So to recap, would have is our main way of talking about that imaginary past, those alternative realities that could have been.
Yeah, the road's not taken.
Exactly.
Yeah.
And could have, it's more versatile.
It's got a lot of uses.
It can also refer to those possibilities in the imaginary past, but it can also be used for making guesses about the past, for expressing criticism or for those close calls where we're relieved that something bad didn't happen.
So it covers a lot of ground.
It really does. And then finally, we have should have, which often has this element of judgment.
Right, about how things should have gone.
Exactly. We use it to criticize actions or inactions, to express regret, and to signal those unfulfilled expectations.
So should have is all about how things measure up to our expectations.
Yeah. So hopefully this deep dive has helped you understand these three little verb phrases better.
And, beyond just understanding them, hopefully you can now use them in your own conversations to really fine-tune what you want to express.
Absolutely. Now, thinking back to that what-if moment we talked about at the beginning, how might you describe those possibilities or those missed opportunities or even those regrets using these different shades of meaning for would have, could have, and should have?
That's a great question. And here's another thought. Now that we've explored all these subtle meanings, think about how your understanding of past decisions, both your own and others, might shift.
That's a really interesting point. It's like it gives us a whole new perspective on the past.
Exactly. It's not just about grammar. It's about how we frame and interpret those past events.
Now, the lesson that we've been using today, it actually mentions that there's even more to explore.
Oh, really?
Yeah, it's got a full lesson and even a quiz if you want to really test your knowledge.
Nice. So if you're ready to dive even deeper, there are more resources out there.
And that's what's so cool about language. There's always more to learn.
Absolutely. Maybe in another deep dive, we can tackle another fascinating corner of the English language.
Yeah, for sure. Until next time, keep those what-ifs in mind, and hopefully you'll understand them in a whole new light.
Thanks for joining us on this deep dive.
We'll see you next time.
Bye for now.
Bye, everyone.